We got hards on. We're going to the end.
I mean, technically, he didn't mess up the start this time. I mean, on a technicality, he did the start. It was the couple corners after the start where he got caught out by his teammate and then proceeded to also lose the position to Leclerc. That kind of undid things this time around, and it's been difficult recently. It's been tricky. This is the Monza Grand Prix, of course, where we are having to talk about Lando Norris and all that stuff. He is currently one of the most hated drivers on the grid, which just came out of kind of nowhere. I'm kind of blindsided by this, but that's the thing at the moment, and it's been tricky. You go from last weekend, you win by 20 seconds, but the most important thing you want is some consistency. Go back to back on the wins. It was right there. Just do it, but no. And it's happening far too much. Like, this guy will win a championship in his lifetime, but it's just like, how many? And are people? What's the legacy gonna be? Like, are people gonna look back on it and call you a fluke? At the moment, yes. Um, we're gonna go through quali. We're gonna go through the race rundown. We're gonna do the soft, medium, hard awards as always. Quali was pretty boring. I probably get like a 5 or 6. I can't even remember. To be honest, it's probably I didn't actually watch all of it. I was watching Twisters, the film, but it did finish just in time for Q3. So I saw Q3. I didn't see anything that happened in Q1 or Q2. No one really big went out anyway, but I caught onto Q3. I was watching that on my walk back to the train. So I saw Norris put it on pole. He put it, the whole top six was separated by 2 tenths, I think, right? And Norris to P2, Piastri, in the same car was separated by 1 tenth. So the whole top six is separated by 2 tenths, and yet the gap between second and first is 1 tenth, half of that gap between 6 cars, right? So it was impressive. It was a good drive. He didn't even think he did a great lap, right? And he was ahead of his teammate again, and you're looking like, okay, this is great. This is great stuff going into the weekend. And like, it's kind of crazy because like Norris at the moment is being looked at as this crazily flawed driver, when like low key the big like golf in his game at the moment is the first zero point 0.4 seconds of the race. Your reaction time, shifting gears or whatever. I don't understand cars, and then holding on to the lead. Like, that is the blemish on your report card. And yet we're looking at him like he's the most flawed driver in the world, when like that's the one thing you got to improve on. Like, this isn't even Happy got to learn to putt. This is Happy's got to learn to remember his T's. Like, it's such a small thing type thing, but yeah, it is really defining him at the moment. And yeah, it's difficult. Look, we're struggling in here. I'm in the barracks. I'm on the front line. Going through no man's land. I'm putting my body on the barbed wire, letting people crawl over me. I'm like Captain America, but like, there's only so much. There's only so many times you can watch him be at the front or need to win a race. And at the beginning, it was 2 or 3 races, right? And you kind of think, okay, well, he's just been put into this position trying to go against guys who have been in winning positions for a good few years now in Formula One, winning championships, and you're expecting him just to win everything immediately. I'm like, okay, this isn't the biggest deal. Also, he didn't have the quickest car for the whole of the season. That kind of came to him like, I don't know, a few laps, like 6 laps in or 6 races in or whatever. But now we're at a point where enough time has passed, and when I actually deeped the distance in between his win at Miami and his win in Hungary, was it? Zandvoort? That's where it was. I don't think those are they the same place? I don't know. Zandvoort is in Netherlands, right? And Hungary is not. Hungary is its own country. But no, what I'm trying to say is there was just a real big gap. I didn't really deep the fact of how many races in a row where that win didn't come back to him. The simple fact as well that Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc also have 2 wins this season. Kind of just shows how much he is underperforming. With that being said, Piastri is also in the same car with 1 win, less wins. So like, as much as everyone wants to say Norris is underperforming, he should easily, like, here's the thing, people are actually scared of Norris. That's the thing. Like, when you start saying things like, if Norris somehow doesn't win this championship this year, he is certified. This proves Max is the GOAT. This just shows that Norris is not that guy. If he just doesn't win it at this point, if he doesn't manage to close the gap, it's so easy. He's got the way fastest car. He should just definitely do it. But if people don't hold Piastri to that same standard, And also, they're saying that because they're nervous. They're scared that Norris will catch and overtake Verstappen. So they're already starting to say things like, "Oh, it's so easy. He should do it anyway. If he doesn't do it, he's the biggest flop of the century." You've watched sport, you've watched football enough times to kind of notice these patterns, right? And I get Piastri's like a year or two younger. Norris is a year or two younger than the people he's trying to beat at the moment. I'm not sure about Verstappen. Verstappen's probably about the same age, right? How old's Verstappen? I'm gonna Google that actually, because Verstappen came into the sport incredibly young, so you sometimes think he's like older than he is. Um, so I'm just curious. But Verstappen age. Verstappen's 26, right? So he's got 2 years on Norris and more years in the sport, I think, right? So it's like people would look at Piastri and go, well, Piastri's younger, he's got less years in the sport, even as an excuse for why Norris dominates him basically this year. And he's out qualified him relatively easily, and he's got more podiums and more wins, right? And that's what they'll say. He's a couple of years younger. He's been in the sport less. Give him time, and he'll overtake him. Whereas Verstappen, you can say the same things from him to Norris. It's like people are expecting him just to be Verstappen now. These things need to come with time, but I need to start to see a slow, at least, improvement. Like for me, I don't need him to win the championship this year. I'd love him to do it, but I need to at least see a competent charge at least trying to put yourself in a title fight. This whole talk of being in a title fight is you're not. You have the tools to be, and you can get to one with maybe 4 races to go, but you're not in one now. I need to at least see you make a competent charge at that, right? So hopefully that can happen. I think a week break is good. Going into Baku, a street circuit. It's just like Baku is so crazy. Street circuits are. Do I really see Norris being the one to navigate that whole situation and win that race? I don't, but just at least get through and pick up points there. And that's my problem. Maybe at this stage of the season, I should be going into Baku thinking, yeah, of course that's nailed on. But here we are, you know what I mean? I don't know. I guess as long as you qualify good, if you can get out ahead, then hopefully all that chaos happens behind you type thing. But there'll probably be safety cars. There'll probably be factors, and you just gotta hope you're on the right side of, fate or whatever. Let me go back to this. So yeah, qualifying, Norris put it on pole. The Red Bulls were way back. Like it was crazy seeing the Red Bulls be like 7th and 8th or 8th and 9th when like people were thinking they was going to have an even more dominant season than they did like last season, and we was all like, oh no, it's Verstappen winning every single race and stuff like that. So that was nice. Sargent's gone, which by Sargent. It was nice knowing James Vowles went from going, I put my full trust and belief in this man to, we'll probably get rid of it at the end of the year to, you know what, get out now. And then bring in this guy that no one's really ever heard of. He might be half decent, but I'm just saying the people like me, let's be honest, we've never heard of him. But like, we'll see, he's probably better than Sargent. It won't be that hard. But yeah, did anything else happen? Oh yeah, George had to watch Kimi crash his car and just watch it with the worst poker face in the world, like he didn't care. When you knew he was like, oh yes, excuse me, sir, that's actually my car. Oh okay. As he just puts a huge scratch in the side of his Mercedes Benz when he's taking it out for like a spin on like his bar mitzvah sort of 16th birthday thing. You just go and watch on. It's like on the inside he's dying. He's like, okay, I've got to drive that on the weekend, and you chucked it into a wall, and everyone else, Toto Wolff's got his arm around Kimi's waist, being like, it's okay, Kimi, you learn, you'll get better, Kimi. Crash the car as many times as you want, Kimi, it's a learning curve. And George is just in the background slightly hearing that, like, crash the car how many times? You mean my car? We also had Lewis Hamilton just completely have imposter syndrome and being like, am I even a race car driver? Like, he was not feeling blessed. Like, he's feeling like, do I even drive cars? I don't know how to qualify anymore. Like, I was going to say he's one bad qualifying and he just sort of started to, like, question God. But to be fair, he has been qualifying pretty bad all season. Qualifying's never been his strongest suit, I'm not sure. I mean, he has the most poles in the sport, but, obviously there's things you can say about that. But, like, yeah, he's just really not feeling himself at the moment. But, like, as always, especially with Hamilton, how much does qualifying mean? Because again, he goes through the race, he finishes above Russell for whatever reason. Russell got damaged and this and that, but kept his nose clean and was above Russell, still above him in the championship. And this is just sort of Hamilton things, But yeah, let's just get into the race. I want to kind of like. Here's the thing: there's people who like back Daniel Ricciardo on Twitter, and Daniel Ricciardo can not get out of Q3, or he can just have a shit race or whatever, and they'll still defend him and say he needs Perez's seat and this and that, and like they won't ever like question their own guy. Or people will do it with, and not just Ricciardo, people on Twitter, but like most people are delusional about the people they back. And I get it. Outwardly to the world, it's a war zone out there. It's toxic, and I love it, by the way. Like, Norris gets so much, I feel like, unwarranted, over the top hate at times, but I also love it. I also love what people are saying. Going into a race with kind of butterflies and nervousness, like you're the one driving the car, because you're like, I need my guy to perform because I put my bollocks on the line over here saying it's going to happen, and now if it doesn't, I'm going to look like a bloody idiot, type thing. I love that. But I just feel like so I get outwardly why people do that, because they've got arguments and, sort of rivalries to uphold. But I do just think, look, for me, it's like, I like Lando, I back Lando, but I also berate him, the team and stuff sometimes. Obviously not to his face, I'm not sort of running next to his car, tapping on the tinted glass, like shouting obscenities. What I'm saying is like, I'm willing to call out the people I support. Football, Chelsea, this and that. It's a part of it, I'm not going to be delusional about it. And like, I do want to see improvements, and I want to see growth. That's the main thing I want to see from now to the end of the season. If like worst case scenario for me is that like, we're going to the final race, he's got about a 35-point gap to Verstappen. It's impossible at this point, he's won it. And he's still pulling on par one, finishing P2 or P3. I just want to see some kind of growth. I don't need to see him win the thing, but I need to see it be competitive. That's all I want, competitiveness. And technically, it didn't mess up the start this time around. So I guess we can call this the tiny micro bits of progression in a way. He got caught nothing to his teammate. It was a fine start. Gets that bad exit. Charles gets him. And now I want to get into Papaya rules, which is clearly a new thing they've developed after everyone's been calling them incompetent, getting on the radio asking their drivers what they should be doing when the drivers have no idea all the time. And everyone's saying, like Nico Rosberg and stuff, what are you guys doing? You're in the radio to Norris. Like, what was that all about? Like, people are just kind of saying it in the media. So clearly they've developed this Papaya rules thing, right? Which it's this unspoken thing, which is basically this sort of, Scouts on a type promise they have, I guess, where like you drive clean. Like, it's just like, we don't need some stupid little name for it. I'm sure every team wants their drivers to race, but if they're racing each other, race cleanly and fairly. Like, I think that goes without saying. We don't have to make a big thing about it. But like, right now, this whole, like, I want to debunk all of like the emotional blackmail stuff McLaren did. Remember back at like, that one was Hungary, I think, when they were saying stuff like, Norris found himself in the lead. And that race in particular, did he deserve the win? No, that was Piastri's first win. He worked hard for it. And this was towards the end of the race, and he inherited the win. This time round, Piastri overtook him, sure. But it was on the first lap. We've still got 95% of the race to go. Piastri doesn't deserve this win now all of a sudden because he overtook Norris. Like, he's no more deserving of the win than Norris at this stage of the race. Like, the Hungary situation was very different. He kind of earned that over like an 85% part of the race and showed that, right? This was not that. And they're already kind of saying, well, he's ahead now, he's kind of earned the win type thing. And let's go for, let's debunk, okay, all of the sort of, the emotional blackmail they delivered to Lando Norris. I got it written down here, right? So they go, you're going to need Piastri. This isn't how you win a world championship. You're going to need Piastri to win this championship. Well, we saw from this race, no, you're not. Piastri doesn't give a fuck about your championship dreams that are so far in the distance they barely look real, right? This isn't how you win a championship. What they mean is, this isn't how you win a constructors championship. Because for me, it is as clear as day, as clear as the sky is blue. They don't really believe in this drivers constructors championship, which, to be fair, maybe is the realistic option here. But as like the team, you're meant to have some belief that it's possible, right? And like, they clearly care about the constructors. They clearly care about getting both drivers on the podium, 2 in a 3, than they would care about Norris being 1 and Piastri being 4 at this point. They're constructors people. Like, when they say, this isn't how you win the championship, they meant a constructors, which probably Norris doesn't give a fuck about when it comes to drivers, let's be honest, right? And this isn't who you are, the other thing they said. Well, guess what, Norris? It needs to be! Because at the moment, who you are, I'm sure it's a nice guy, right? And I'm sure it's getting you good bits of eye contact and no awkwardness in doing media things with Piastri and this and that. But what it's not getting you is any rep. It's not getting you more wins, is it? it's getting you sitting there in your car, feeling frustrated, sitting in a cool down room, not feeling like a chatty Cathy, because once again you feel like you've blown it, not really understanding why you've blown it or how this has happened, because that kind of seems to be how these races go. A lot of the time it's like, I blew that, but how did I blow that again? Like, yeah, okay, maybe I messed up the start, but like that time and then that happened, and it kind of just all fell away from me. I don't even really understand what to break down here and what happened, and it's like just a culmination of minute little things which just are never getting ironed out, and it's just ridiculous to me. Like, yeah, I there was an easy world today where Piastri doesn't catch Norris snapping, and they quite comfortably are starting lap six with Norris P1 and Piastri P2 and Leclerc P3. There's an easy world in which the McLarens are leading, and they've built like a little 2-3 second gap now, and they're starting to grow a gap to the Ferraris, because they walked out like, oh, the Ferraris were just quicker today. No, they weren't. The Ferraris were quick, and surprisingly quick, but they did a one stop and they caught you out. They were not quicker today. I don't think so. Maybe like a smart analyst guy could tell me otherwise. But to me, it seemed like, oh, they were quicker. They've actually got pace around here. They look decent. But, you know, if you didn't undercut Leclerc, you was about to overtake him on that straight anyway. Like, the McLarens were quicker. You were catching, like, you still had the quicker car, right? So if they want to convince themselves that the Ferraris were quicker today and that's how they managed to do it, sure, but that wasn't the case. The McLarens very easily could have been going into lap 10, 1 and 2. They didn't. And Piastri, I have no issues with Piastri being a cold-blooded killer, being like, oh, I see the move there, I'm going for that. Race win, I wouldn't say no to it type thing. Go for it, sure. I don't mind that. But as a team, right, as the authoritarians, to not be annoyed by that, for them to be like, yeah, sure, that's fine, we don't mind that they didn't crash, cool, keep going through. Like, that to me is a problem. You very easily could have, like, I feel like a Perez in the same situation, if this was Verstappen, wouldn't have went for that move there, because prior to that, Red Bull would have told them no. And I thought that's kind of what Piastri was doing. He took like a wider line and he blocked off Russell on the first corner, and maybe Norris felt comfortable in that moment and he just didn't see it coming, and then bang. And then you got a bad exit, and then bang, you lose another space. And that's how you know, like, it's out of nowhere. Like, it wasn't like Piastri just got by on like a straight and Norris was still P2 and then they could have fought later on in the race. No, it was like, okay, well now I'm also behind Leclerc and I got to work to get back ahead of Leclerc on my tyres. I got to undercut him and box early. And it's like, it's a domino effect that affects your entire race. And like, the fact that McLaren will look at this and go, yeah, good weekend, we got P2 and P3, both of us on the podium, it's just infuriating. Like, how are you not sitting them down being like, yeah, Piastri, you go for it this time, you deserved it, you earned it in that race. We're in the first laps here, and there's only so many laps left, and you're not like sitting people down. Like, to me, Piastri didn't do anything wrong, but as the team, they should be annoyed at Piastri and talking to Piastri in like a meeting afterwards. But they won't. But in my opinion, with where the season is right now, they should, because they easily, in so many futures, Doctor Strange style, you're looking forward, seeing how this race could have ended, should have been Norris P1 and Piastri P2, and they could have made that happen easily. Whether you thought Piastri was slightly quicker today, I disagree. I feel like you see this in certain races. It's like whichever McLaren was ahead would have looked slightly quicker. I think if Norris was ahead and he went into lap 2 ahead, he would have looked like the slightly quicker car, just out in the clean air, not having to work to fight back to where he started type thing. So like, yeah, it's just ridiculous to me, like how that even plays out. I mean, it's crazy. Like, on the Saturday, Leclerc unhappy, Hamilton unhappy, Verstappen unhappy. Everyone's goats massacred on the floor in interviews with 10,000 bags under their eyes, looking defeated. And then you've got smug little Norris. Oh, was that me? Did I do that? You know, type thing. Oh, I thought I did a bad lap. Oh my God, and I'm on pole. Look at me, type thing. And everyone hates him, and everyone's in hell. And then it gets to the weekend, and it's a kind of flip reversal, and everyone's happy again. And that just shouldn't have been the case. And it's just like, you could have been leaving with 25 points. Instead, I don't know, it's just a huge bottle job again. It's not like a huge egregious mistake from McLaren. It's not even necessarily a mistake. It's just they just have a certain ethos that I don't agree with, I guess. And I don't think it's a winning ethos. And maybe it is for constructors, but at least it's not a winning ethos that they needed right now for this particular situation. What else happened in the race? Yeah, I think that God, I'm just lost for words. I'm just lost for words after that. Just like, and you could tell, like Norris again. So many of these younger drivers do not have a good poker face. He's singing that Cordarium. He looks defeated, and it's like, here's the thing: I don't need to like Norris. Not everyone is going to be a Lewis Hamilton, right, or a Max Verstappen, or even a Charles Leclerc, right? But if you're not one of those drivers, you need to make sure you're a Nico Rosberg. And by that, all I just mean is you need to make sure you're someone who squeezes every last point out of their career, and like every point or podium necessary or win, they do it. And it's like, if you're, cutthroat and you're making a couple enemies along the way, okay, but you're gonna be viewed as a better driver, like. And that's the kind of thing where at the time I was like, don't slow down and let Piastri overtake, don't slow down. And then he did, and then Piastri overtook, and I was kind of like, yeah, I kind of saw some of the points they were making. I was like, yeah, sure, that was probably the right thing to do. But now this weekend happens, and I look back and go, okay, well, you just got kind of overtaken out of nowhere. You didn't really expect it on the first lap of Monza. And that you ended up finishing third when you probably could have won that race. Now I look back at that race and go, I probably would have been better off just taking them 25 points. Like, and now immediately I'm thinking that was the wrong decision. Like, I don't think Norris will think this way, but I'd probably be going home thinking, shouldn't have let Piastri overtake me. I should have just won that race, and you know what I mean, type thing. Because what so far was it really led to? What good fortune have I had? Karma, favors being repaid to me from letting Piastri get back ahead and win his first race. Nothing. And I would have looked him in the eyes on Thursday morning, whatever, in our meeting, and said, hey, it's how the cookie crumbles, But, it is what it is. And thank God for Nico Rosberg as well, because sometimes I say things just as a fan of the sport who really doesn't really understand it in the workers of it that much. And I'll be here and I'll say things like, no, I should have done this, or where's the sort of, mentality here, and where's the winning stuff there, and where's the decision making there, and why is the team not doing this? And I'll go, am I just chatting shit? Do I really not know what I'm talking about? Am I just like saying things that I think should be right as a fan, but realistically in a workers of a team it doesn't really make sense? And then Nico Rosberg, right, on live television with a Sky Sports microphone in his hand, will stand opposite one of the team principals and just say it straight how it is. Like, okay, so we're going to get to Monza. If we see a situation where Norris isn't leading on lap one, will we see direct Piastri switch for the championship, switch around? And Zach's like, and it's like, he just says it, man. And he's just like, he just gives me like I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. A literal winner. And like, he's not a GOAT, but in my eyes, he's a GOAT, just in a different way for like what he managed to carve out with his career, right? Sits there and says that what everyone's thinking. It's just like, oh no, I'm not crazy. This is what they should be doing, but they're just not. And like, yeah, that it just is what it is, I guess. What else have we got here then? It was a pretty boring race, to be honest. Outside of all the ammo, all the ammunition, rival like fans get for Norris not winning that, being able to use each other and just more like the rivalry banter stuff. There wasn't actually much to get from this race. Magnussen's finally banned. It was bound to happen with all, like, he's just crazy. And he's finally out for a race, so I guess we might see Behrman or someone. Leclerc wins. I know this will be a thing other people talk about a lot more than me. Leclerc is a legend for winning that race and doing a one-stop. And it's like, he's a legend, yeah, because it's Monza and it's Ferrari and he tried something different and it worked out and he managed to make those tyres last and here's that. But here's the thing, right? I've not been watching the sport that long, but when you've watched the sport where Leclerc, Hamilton, sure, Alonso, okay, Perez, Leclerc, I've heard it from Norris before over certain races, George Russell, basically, when you hear half the grid on different races be referred to as tire whisperers, it kind of makes the whole tire whispering thing have zero meaning. Because everyone gets called one, right? So like, oh my god, how the hell did he make them work? I mean, no one else really tried it. If Piastri decided to go for it, he would have worked for him as well, type thing. Like, as much as he was saying they're dead, they probably would have worked for him as well. Like, I just don't really like, to me, it's just like a jackpot thing. It's like, it's just random roulette type stuff. Like, you try and make it work, your tires exploded, they don't. And it's like, you go on the one stop, and then, you know, like when George Russell did it, it's like, it's a decision making thing. It's like, am I going to be ballsy enough to do it? Okay, yeah, I am. But I don't look at them like they're a goddamn legend. Like, oh my God. It's like you went for a different strategy where if it pays off, it's money. And if it doesn't, okay, well, we've got nothing to lose. Just go for it. Like, I don't, you know, it was good he won. He made the right decision. It was ballsy and and it paid off. And like, that's cool. Like, that's a cool, like, I'm him moment. Like, oh, I managed to make that work off. But I don't see him as like some legend. Like, how the hell did he pull that off? Whoa, this guy is like, that's like goat driving. Like, I don't know. Like, I just, when I see drivers, any driver pull off like a one stop thing, which manages to massively work out, I don't then look at them. It's just not, it just doesn't do it for me, is what I'm trying to say. As like a performance, I'm going to be like going crazy over. Anything else? Hamilton quali, we talked about that already. I mean, after all of the Hamilton, and I said this kind of earlier, all of that Hamilton, like, self-loathing, I just can't qualify anymore. Why do I even race at this point? I should just retire. Rip my Ferrari contract up. I don't deserve it. I'm just so gross and disgusting type thing. As always, we then get to the race, and it is like, it's the same old story. Star-crossed lovers, you know, living miles apart. You know, this whole cliche love story. You know, she's just a small town girl who's a city boy. They take the midnight train and they meet in the fucking middle every time. You know, Russell's from over there. He's from P3 land, qualified P3 land. And Hamilton, oh, he's from the other side of the tracks. He's qualified P8 land. But every time they meet in the middle, it's the beautifulest thing you've ever seen. Disney, get it made. So he's got nothing to worry about. He still gains points and goes forward. And another funny thing, actually, is after watching that cool down room, I saw an interview on Twitter, like maybe like the day before the race, where Piastri gets asked what's the most awkward cool down room you've been in, and he was like, Spa. I've not been in that many, but Spa was pretty awkward. After Hamilton drove an amazing race, but then George does the one stop. Basically, what happened in this race is that I felt like I did a really good race, but then Leclerc did the one stop, and like he was sitting in there, and he was like, "Yeah, Hamilton was in an awkward place. Like he was not exactly in that chatty mood. That's probably the most awkward one I've been in." Well, guess what, Piastri? I think he got a challenger for that one because he's in there like having minimal words shared with Leclerc, while his teammate is in the corner looking like, you know, hell on earth, miserable, like just 5,000 yard stare type thing. After you know, caught him napping on lap one, that has to be 10 times more awkward, surely, than the other thing has. Let's get into the soft, medium, hard awards. It's been quite a long one. Considering it wasn't the most interesting race, I've just had to rant at McLaren, at Norris, because ultimately, I still want better from Norris. Like, I'm just running at everyone, anyone can fucking get it. But like, I don't know, I wrote a couple points down for my soft, medium, hards. I kind of know who I'm going to give them to. I'm going to spend most of the time on Norris, though, because Norris, what I would say is, it wasn't a perfect race, and therefore it was a terrible race. That's just how it goes. That is life, that is sport, right? That's how the cookie crumbles. It wasn't perfect, so it was terrible, right? I get that, but lessons from this, and they should have from multiple, but they need to be had for sure, because this Scout on our Papaya Pinky Promise rules bullshit is just that. It is bullshit. Okay? Like, you are in one of 20 race cars, and the one you're in happens to be fucking fast this season, okay? And I think you should just forget winning the drivers' championship for a second. Forget being in a driver championship title fight for a second, and just focus on even having a good go at having a respectable charge at closing the gap. Like, just try and think about, you know, at least for the next 3 races, just closing the gap, like, properly, not just by like 8, but like maxing that out, and just stop thinking about this whole, am I in a driver's fight? Don't ask me about being in a championship fight, this and that. Just do that. Like, a race, I'm sorry, but a race that is like 90 minutes long. It's not decided into turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. But yet, so often, it has consistently been, right? And that is a problem. And your teammate does not give a fuck about your outlandish title fight aspirations, okay? He doesn't, okay? But he's not driving your car, you're driving your car. Your team on the radio aren't driving your car, you're driving your car, okay? Your quick car. And your team is clearly more interested in a Constructors' Championship, so get your elbows out and fight for it, man. Like, he's like sitting back in his chair, lounging in it, like, oh, why is not just kind of pointing? It's time to lean forward, right? Like you're playing FIFA and you're taking it seriously now because you just went down 2-0 and you're like, okay, wipe the sweat off your hands, grab back hold of the controller, and lock in type thing. Because, like, you're not just losing the championship, because that's probably not going to happen anyway, but you're losing credibility, and that should mean something. Reputation, you know? And maybe they don't care about that. But in a sport which is very much mental as well, you should, because, like, feeling $1 million makes you drive $1 million. So, there is that. I'm a Lando guy. I said that. But I ain't stupid, right? But, you know what? Look. I don't, yeah. So, you know, I see what's happening right now, and they try and tell me I'm crazy, and I kind of believe them. They try to gaslight me after certain decisions they've made, and I kind of bought into them. But not now. Not after what I've seen now. All across the board, right? The team, him, himself, obviously, things got to change a little bit. Because you're going to win the Constructors, like, but you could have a driver on the top as well, and they just don't seem to really acknowledge that. They think it's just like this distant sort of dream, you know, but oh, that's just a pipe dream. That probably, you know, we don't really know if we can like put all our money on that. Start doing it. Like, that is not the right mentality to have. But you know, whatever. What do I know? Medium, Hamilton, another low-key good job. Hardwood, Leclerc. It's not my kind of thing, kind of race that to be calling as the godly thing, but still the celebrations are biblical and they're cool, and I like Leclerc still, and yeah, he gets a harder wood. The next race, I don't know, I can probably check. It's going to be difficult because of the way this is right now, but F1 calendar, I guess. And I can see what races. We've got a little, oh no, I do know it's Baku. Is it? Let me just double check. I heard one of the drivers say it's Baku, I think, but I don't trust them. Yeah, it's Baku. The 15th, so a little week break. And how many are left? So you got Singapore, United States, that's 3. Mexico's 4, Brazil's 5, Las Vegas is 6, Qatar is 7, Abu Dhabi 8. They should be close. It should be very close by then. It should be. See you for Baku. We got Hazen. We're going to the end. Thank you. Goodbye.